All right. So, hey guys, Dennis here. So I'm excited. I have Femi here. So we're going to talk about Femi. He's an OG inside LIA. And we're going to kind of go into his business a little bit today and just talk about what he's doing, how he's doing it, and the differences like basically between his business and everybody else's. So Femi, tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are and what you do.
Hey guys, my name is Femi. So a little bit of background about me. I actually started real estate wholesaling in 2020. Before that, I was a Division I athlete. I ran track at Long Beach State. I was on scholarship there, and then I was getting ready for the Olympics, Olympic trials, all those things. And then COVID happened. So when COVID happened, I really had to, just like we all did, sit down and evaluate the scene and kind of figure out what I was going to do for money during that time.
Mhm.
I at first found wholesaling, which honestly did well for a while. And then I had a stint of time where I kind of, I got cut out of a few deals. And so I definitely had a sour taste in my mouth. And I realized that I did need more control over deals, just as far as more exit strategies. And I remember just kind of asking the universe for that. And then I came across land flipping on YouTube. And then I started watching all these videos just about land flipping, like hours and hours and hours of content I was watching over and over again, just became like really obsessive about it and understood that I could build a fairly successful business with land flipping and that it could be, a pretty solid cash printer for me for, opportunities that I'd like to venture into. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I've scaled up my business over the years. I currently have 2 employees, and I'm really geared towards doing larger deals. And I still do singles and doubles on the side, but I'm really geared towards just doing larger transactions. So
Awesome. So, all right. So you just got into it. So now, why this over wholesaling? I know you said, me and Femi talk a lot. We have a monthly meeting we do with some other guys, and um, we all kind of just focus on like how do we grow bigger. And one thing you said about wholesaling is you want to control more controllables, right? What does that mean to you?
yeah.
Like, how is land different than wholesaling that you could control more of this asset?
Well, first of all, with land, you're actually buying the asset and then reselling it on the market. So as
Mhm.
far as my actual exit strategy, I have so many different ways that I can go. I can subdivide it, I can just list it on the market and sell it. Whereas with wholesaling, you're assigning a contract. That's pretty much it. You're just assigning the contract, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
you're right. You're so there's so many things with land that I've done, like clear the property. Like I said, you can get paper lots ready, do all these things, and then also just controlling the asset in the form of actually making sure that the marketing is really good to sell it for the highest price possible, right? There's so many different things with it, and I like the idea of, okay, I have this property for the next 60 days and I can offload it on the market, and really make sure that my marketing is really good before uh just assigning it for $10,000. And so the earning potential and the earning power is a lot more when you actually end up controlling the asset. So it goes for from 10 to 20 grand to 60, 70 grand if you're doing it correctly. So
Nice. It's also nice too that you don't have to worry about like houses delivered vacant, this and that. Like you don't really have to deal with much of that stuff or worry about like, all right, I got to make sure the septic's good and this and that and all that stuff. It's definitely a nice feel dealing with
yeah.
land versus houses. I mean the potential's there for both of them. I just feel like in my eyes too, like I've been in wholesaling as well for a long time. I really like the land model just because I control the asset, like you said, and it's less one less emotional, two, it's less like less worrisome as far as like I have to worry about, okay, make sure the tenants are vacated, make sure the house is in X, Y, and Z condition, make sure it's like this, all that stuff. It's all gone. Now I'm just worried about the land. Hey, does it look pretty? Is it all clean? There's no garbage. Great. It's a lot easier, right?
Right.
Um, so you said you're switching now. Are you just switching now to bigger deals, or is this something that you've been doing and now you're like you realize like your 80/20 is better and you should focus more on the bigger deals? Is that kind of the thing?
Yeah, no, I've been doing bigger deals. Honestly, the bulk of what I've done has been bigger deals. I think in order to keep the lights on and, pay your bills monthly when it comes to the bills of the business, it's good to do singles and doubles because sometimes home runs take a little bit longer. Sometimes those bigger deals can take a little bit longer. However, yeah, I'm mostly shifting towards just doing larger transactions just because I feel like honestly, the larger transaction takes the same amount of time as a small transaction. And sometimes it's way less of a headache. When you're dealing with seller archetypes, as far as some of these sellers, if you have a seller that is selling a $200,000 property, the likelihood of them giving you problems as opposed to someone that's selling a $20,000 property is a lot less. So they're actually the person that's more expensive will actually give you less problems than the person that is way less expensive, right? Just because they have a different line of thinking. And so for me, it's really been about identifying the average seller archetype that's going to have a deal that I can buy for anywhere from 100 to $200,000 and resell for double. And so since I have so much of that data in my database, I can basically go back from the last couple of years and pick every single person that, okay, this person was a divorced man. Okay, this person was, they inherited it from a trust. This person was this. Okay, so now I can go back into my data and really dig in based upon that kind of archetype in any given area. So that's how I'm looking to find these larger deals
Awesome.
consistently.
Awesome. Are you also with that, do you plan on getting into more subdivide stuff, or is that something that's like on the back burner in a way, or is that also in part of this whole thing of like getting into this larger deals?
Yeah, I think it depends on what comes in, to be honest with you. It's not something that I'm like shooting for directly, but if it does come in, then absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. As far as deal flow, have you seen a big increase in deal flow, or are you seeing less deal flow while you're going for these larger assets?
Yeah, no, the deal flow has pretty much stayed the same. Like I said, I also go for singles and doubles, also mostly doubles. And when I say a double, I mean really like anywhere from 15 to $20,000 in profit. I don't do anything that's under $10,000 in profit, so I continuously do those. But deal flow is consistent. As long as mail flow is consistent, deal flow will always be consistent. So I'm making sure to consistently send out my marketing. There are a few split tests that I'm going to implement this quarter, actually this month, next week, in different mailer templates, and just trying to see what what resonates with what seller profile, what resonates with what seller archetype. That's really that's what I'm going to test, because I feel like if you send out the 2-page to a seller and you're offering them $400,000 or $500,000, they may not take that as seriously as if you send them an LOI, right, or letter of intent to purchase their property, because it's like you're just putting a price on here as $400,000 or $500,000. It's a different product than $40,000 or $50,000, right? So putting an LOI on that, you say, hey, I intend to purchase this. This is what I'm thinking I can offer. Give me a call. Let's talk. Right. That person, that characteristic in that person, they're going to want to call you and just have that conversation. Even if it's, oh, I don't want 500,000, I want 9, and that's that. They'll still call you as opposed to the open rate being down and you don't get any call back. So as far as my deal flow goes, it's pretty consistent, and it's just like I said, consistent mail flow, consistent marketing.
I love it. So consistent mail flow, consistent marketing, and just honestly just finding that right avatar, right, of your buyer.
Exactly.
That's pretty much it. So as far as like types of deals, like what type of deal are you looking for? Are you looking for something that's going to be like, are you just looking for anything that anybody that'll call? Are you scrubbing down lists or anything like that? Or what's your plan?
It really depends on the market and what's selling in that market. I always go from that. Like I'm always looking first, like, okay, what's selling in this specific market and how quickly, and then I just go from there, honestly.
Awesome. Okay.
So a lot of rural recreational land, residential land, of course, but really I'd say I'm probably 85% rural recreational,
Hmm.
bigger parcels. And yeah, if you're going in that larger range of $400,000 or $500,000 for properties, then it really does become there's more residential involved for sure. So I do send mail to those things, but I only send mail based upon what I see has sold. Like if I don't have a proof of concept in a certain market, then I'm not going to send to that kind of property. I'm just going to scrub it out. And then
Okay.
also just talk to locals, and I have my team talk to locals on what they think is moving quickly, and even, oh, I actually have a buyer for this, and he's looking for and then I'll reverse engineer it. So I always start with who's buying what before I go in and try to do my data research and scrub it down, do all those things.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So quarter one this year did you implement your new model this year, or have you just started implementing it in this current upcoming
As
quarter?
as far as just going after bigger deals, or
Yeah. Was this a
no,
Q1 thing or a Q2 thing?
it's nothing super new, honestly. But I am scaling back this quarter for doing the smaller deals for sure. Definitely in quarter one, I did a few smaller deals that like honestly wasted time. Like this 10,
Mm.
$15,000 deal, it took hours upon hours to work, and honestly, I could have just allocated my time and energy towards another deal. So yeah, I would say it's more so me scaling back from those smaller transactions than it is focused on the big ones, because I have done quite a few big transactions.
Nice. Yeah, see, I personally like our goal is we don't do a deal unless so we scaled away from our main goal is we don't do a deal unless we can make 30,000, right?
Yeah.
Um that's pretty much our thing. So if I can't make 30 grand on a deal, I'm not going to do it. And
Yep.
I know there is a market, people are like, yeah, but a deal's a deal. 10K is 10K. But at the end of the day, like I don't want to it's a waste of time to me in a way. Because to have my team there and to put everything together, it takes the same amount of effort to do a 30K deal that it takes to do a 10K deal, 5K deal, a 1K deal, all that stuff.
Not
Um,
less.
yeah, if not less, exactly. Like you were saying before, the avatar of the person you're dealing with is a lot different. A lot of these people that have this piece of land that's worth $400,000 or $500,000, they actually understand the process a lot more versus the 5 or 10,000 or $50,000 um person, right? And it's nothing against them, and there's a time and a place for everybody in their business to do that. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. I'd rather do less deals with bigger spreads than more deals. It's just more headaches, you know. Um, okay, cool. So Q2 is when you're implementing a lot of this bigger stuff. How many deals have you been able to do in Q1, or how many do you have listed currently?
Well, I think the last time I checked, we had 17 listed. Um, Last quarter, we did right under 200 grand.
Nice.
And yeah, those 17, I'm just trying to just clear through. And a lot of them actually are under contract. So in the next week, based upon closings that we have, it's not a deal until it's closed. But I
Right.
do have around 70 grand closing by Monday. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. Um, that's awesome, man. And so I want to touch on this too. We've been talking a while, and one of the things that really stands out for me is like you were able to grow your business and you were able to travel for what, 4 months all over the
3.
world, 3 months
Mhm.
all over the world, and your business when you came back, it actually grew. So can
Yeah.
you touch on that a little bit? Like tell me a little bit about what you did in your traveling schedule and how you
Yeah.
grew your business even while being in Dubai and all over the world.
Yeah. So we went to Dubai. Where did we go? Dubai, Italy, Turkey, Spain, and London. We're gone for 3 months, and that was from August to October. Honestly, yeah, I was a little bit nervous about it, and a lot of people were asking me, "Oh, don't you think your business is going to struggle?" And are you worried about your business? I was like, I'm really not. At that time, I'd actually spoken to right before I left. I had a conversation with Michael Bull
Mhm.
in person at the LIA meetup that actually like it sparked a fire in me for sure. And every time Michael Bull and I talk a lot, we talk like almost every month, um, and just about business and all those things, and it drove me to like, okay, there's definitely some things that I can implement in my business. And so I actually started implementing the double close strategy, and that started that took things to another level for sure. Um, and so that's why I was able to get so many listings, because now it's at the point where we're able to negotiate our contracts down, list on the market, sell through quickly, and then it's way less capital expenditure. Now, we still bought properties, a lot of properties during that time, but that was a big thing. And also the time difference in Dubai, I think the time they're like maybe 15 hours ahead. So when it would be morning time here, it'll be nighttime there. So I'm basically finished with my day. Everything's kind of done. It's almost like if you're waking up super, super early in the morning, everything's quiet. So I was able to get a lot of work done for sure. I think that within like after I left Dubai, I think I had like 20, 24, 25 listings,
Yeah.
which I'd say 90% of them ended up actually selling through in
Yeah.
that quarter. So
I think you said like 26, if I remember correctly. Like you came back and you're like, I got 26 deals while I was gone. I'm like blown away. I was like, you traveled with your wife, right?
yeah, yeah,
You guys traveled everywhere. And
yeah,
what's her name is Jazz, right? You and her,
yeah,
you guys traveled everywhere and then you got to do all this stuff and you still grew your business, which is just like it's a testament to this type of business and what you could do.
yeah,
Because you could grow your business, grow your life while traveling all over the world, which is just absolutely insane.
yeah.
Um, what was your
It-
favorite
it-
country you visited?
uh, so guys, don't go to Dubai in the summer. I didn't know that until I went there, but don't go to Dubai in the summer. But Dubai was amazing. Spain was definitely our favorite country for sure. I'm gonna go back, definitely.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're on the verge of so we're getting our Italian citizenship by descent. So anybody, if you're Italian by descent, by like grandfather, grand whatever it is, you can get your Italian citizenship, and then you could live, work, whatever you want to do, anywhere in the EU. So we're working on it right now. I have like probably 2 or 3 more years left until we get it. Um, so next summer, my goal is to actually go to Italy for like 2 or 3 months and just try to do this exactly what you did, just grow our business and travel all across Italy and see where we want to end up, kind of thing. So
It's a
it's
thing to do. It really is because you're. I'd say my stress levels were very decreased when I was out there for sure, especially in Europe. Like the hustle culture that we have in America is not the same as it is out there. It's like you do your work, you get it done, that's it. But there's no super like I have to grind and do this. It doesn't exist out there. And I didn't feel it. So I think that's also why I was able to get so much done. I think when we're spending so much time engulfed into the business and just grinding all day, um, you forget important things like go outside, like
yeah,
go outside and enjoy your life. It's very important to enjoy this life because if you don't, you know, what is all this stuff for? All this research, all these deals, all the calls, all the mail, all this nonsense. Not nonsense, all these things that we have to do to make our business work is for nothing if we don't enjoy our lives and our families and all these other things. So just really able to do that.
that's awesome. Yeah, it is a good testament too, like to everything. Like, what are you doing this for? What's your why? Like having a business, making money is not your why, right? There's got to be something behind it, why you're doing this, right? And if traveling is your why, that's great. Just you should be able to build a business around traveling and do it at the same time, kind of thing. Um, and actually, it's funny too. Like Mike was saying this the other day, where his life just changed, and now because of that, he's like more focused on his business when he's focused on it, and he's doing a lot less of the like the minutia, the stuff that doesn't actually make money. He's
Right.
not doing that as much more. He's just focusing on the actual money making activities. Would you
Right.
say like traveling helped you focus in on those things that are the money making activities?
For sure, because there's a lot of useless things that we can get caught up doing in our business, for sure.
Mhm.
Like looking at KPIs that don't really matter, and all like what really matters is the deal, the mail flow, and making sure that that's as streamlined as possible, and your marketing on the actual market. So for sure, um, definitely been able to dial in a lot more on the things that matter as opposed to the froth that just really doesn't matter, for sure.
Yeah. So your main business is mail. Is that the main thing you're doing? Are you doing anything else?
Direct mail, that's all I've ever done with land, was direct mail.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was thinking split testing with cold calling, um, targeted cold calling. Definitely, I've seen some good results with that
Mhm.
from colleagues in the space. But as far as right now, just direct mail and going to split test that within the next week.
Cool. So why just direct mail versus anything else?
I really feel like the personal connection that I can cultivate with a seller is primary to anything else. Because if you just get a cold call, people get cold calls all day. You just
Yeah.
get a text, people get texts all day. Now, people do get mail all day as well. But when you open that mailer and see, okay, there's actually a number here. Someone didn't just randomly call me or randomly text me. There's an actual number here. There's something that I can put up on my fridge, put on my table, speak to my wife about, whatever it is, right? And it just stays there. That's a piece of mail that stays there. I've had people that have called me years later and say, hey, I want to sell my property. I got your mailer 3 years ago. Years later,
Yeah.
right? And I've never heard about that happening with the cold call. I've never heard someone, oh, you cold called me 3 years ago. I think I want to sell my land now. I've
Hmm.
never heard that. And so that's why I say mail over anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I could wholeheartedly agree to that. I've been in real estate for a while, and with direct mail, it has a sticking power and staying power versus like cold calling. And we've ran huge teams of cold callers and all this stuff. While it was good, we did get deals out of it. Um, the thing is, there's two parallels, right? When you're doing cold calling, that's disruptive marketing. You're disrupting their day. You're calling them when they're gonna answer, whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
Same with texting; it's disruptive marketing versus a piece of mail. They're gonna open it when they're sitting down at their couch or at their table, whatever the case may be. It's not as disruptive. It's still a disruptive type of marketing, but the goal with that is they open it on their time and then call you on their time. And when they're calling you, it's inbound versus outbound, right? An inbound call, it is technically outbound marketing, but it's an inbound call. Um, Usually inbound marketing has a higher conversion rate versus outbound. So I definitely could agree with that. And I personally like we only send mail for land right now. We're in the same boat where we're gonna like, all right, we're gonna try some cold calling targeted just for specific ones that we can't reach with mail. But but yeah, I think it's definitely important just to pick a lane and stay in it for a certain amount of time until your business has grown, instead of like trying to do like cold calling, texting, and everything at once. Pick one, whether it's mail, whether it's cold calling, this and that. Just pick one and stick with it. Um, okay, cool. So are you how many like different markets do you do? Do you do a lot of different states? Do you like to stay in like a specific area, or are you kind of all over the place?
Uh, there's definitely some hotspots that I'm in and stick in. I also choose my markets based upon the quality of a broker and how I feel like a specific property type is selling in that market. And that's ever growing and changing. And so I do keep a solid Rolodex of brokers in many different areas that I feel like align with how I want to sell properties quickly, because a lot of brokers don't align with that. If you just kind of find a run of the mill broker, they're going to be thinking, oh, this can sit for 3 to 6 months. And we don't really have that kind of time. Like, I want my things to be turning over really in 30 days if I can help it, but definitely less than 60 days. So I always, my market really very much depends on the broker for sure.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I kind of agree to that. Once you find a good broker, it's hard not to stop feeding them, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, it
Um,
is.
so as far as like market selection and stuff like that, when you're looking at a market, what's your heaviest thing you look at? Is it um, how fast stuff is selling? What's the days on market or the type of land, or what's the main thing that sticks to you, and then everything from there?
The timeline in which they're selling and then the actual property type.
Okay.
So two things: timeline that they sell, and then the property type. So if this thing took 3 months and it's recreational land versus this thing took 2 months and it's residential land, and they're in the same market, I'm looking at both of those things, and I'm also speaking to the local brokers, agents, realtors in the area, or my team is, and discussing that with them on, okay, how do we align ourselves with this result, right? I'm looking for results. When I go into markets, I'm looking for very specific results, and my goal is to duplicate those results, right? So that's what I do. And then also to figure out, okay, why did this happen? Maybe who bought this? What's the profile of who bought this, right?
Mhm.
How do I duplicate that? That's what I'm looking for. Because if you can find the result, then you can also duplicate that result time and time and time again.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's when you see a type of asset selling really quick and you're like, okay, let's look back at that. What's the avatar of the buyer and what's the avatar of the land? You know, was it hunting land in XYZ county or was it infill lots in XYZ county, right? And it's like once you start figuring out what sells the fastest, it's just easy to dial that in and say, okay, well, 90% of my marketing was trash because the type of property I want was only in the 10% of the marketing. So let me focus on that 10% in that specific market and just grow that and just hone in on that, right? So, and it's kind of like a time. So, like, let's say you're testing a new market. When you're testing a new market, do you just broadband everything and then take back those KPIs and think about what happened? Why did this go this way and all that? Or what's your main thing testing a new market?
I used to do that at first, but now we talk to locals first, and then like I said, based upon the results of what I see has actually sold in an area, and based upon what locals tell us, that's what I'll allocate my mail to, my marketing to. I think that it's when you're looking for the kinds of deals that I am, it's a lot better to be a sniper than it is to just kind of send things out. And I used to do that, and I still had good results, and I still get good deals. But I like to, and also when I send my mail, I probably have like 10 different strategies in one mailer, right? So, okay, so if this primary strategy doesn't work, then I also have these other 9 built in here, like these doubles, these singles built in here, just so that basically I can more than pay for the mailer, pay the company's expenses, et cetera, still do deals. Let's say if I was trying to send out I don't know, 15,000 mailers to a specific pocket that I feel like I can buy something for 200,000 and sell for 600,000, whatever it might be, right? And then nobody calls me back. Well, I need to have other strategies built into that mailer just to make sure that I'm still going to do deals, right? So when I do my market research, that's what I'm always thinking about. Like, okay, how many markets do I need to be in to where if these 3 don't work out, then I still have other strategies implemented within my mailer so that it's still a success and I still do deals.
Sweet. So let's say you do mail a new county
Yeah.
and you've had 0 leads from it. Are you going to remail that county or what's your goal? Are you going to just move on?
Um, I honestly cannot remember the last time that happened, but if
Yeah.
that were to happen, if that were to happen, I mean, I just figure out why. You know, like maybe it's my pricing. Maybe I've done that, but I've remailed the county that I've had no leads from before, and then got leads. And the big thing to understand too, and I talk about this a lot, is like it's timing. A lot of these things are timing. You could send a mailer today. I could send a mailer tomorrow. It hits them in a different way. They could call you. They could not call me. Right. So it doesn't mean that the market is a bad market. I feel like unless you're sending to like literal marshland and just bad areas, like generally bad areas, it's very hard to find a bad market, right?
Mhm.
The same way I don't believe that any market is a perfect market or a good market. There's markets, every market has a good deal in it, every single market. I really do believe that. So it's just about finding those deals and having the conversations when the mail does come back and they call you back, and having those conversations is going to lead to you deal making and getting a deal closed.
Mhm. Yeah. So we talked about a little bit, or you mentioned it before about your team. What
Yeah.
exactly like your team, what does it look like? What
Yeah.
you said you had 2 people that work for you?
Yeah, I have 2 people that work for me right now. They really, I've trained them to go start to finish process. So they handle the intake on leads. They handle calls on the phone. If I need to slide in, which usually I don't because I've trained them to that point. But if I need to slide in to close someone, let's say it's a larger deal for sure. Let's say it's a 300,000 or 400,000 dollar close, then I'll hop on the phone if I have to. They do the broker opinions, which at this point I have a Rolodex of brokers. So that's really just as simple as sending a deal. And then things like preparing the listing, marketing, drone shots, things like that. So basically the full process is what they handle. I used to believe in like specialists, but I also think that when running a shop the way I am, when you have all these people that are like, okay, I'm doing this now. Okay, who do I pass the ball to? Okay, how long is it going to take this person to pass the ball? And it also depends on the profile of the person. So these 2 guys that I have right now, they want to take the ball, take it all the way down the court and dunk it. They don't want to rebound the ball and, oh, who do I pass? They just want to go all the way through. And I'd actually prefer that. I prefer that. And I think that if you, I think specialists are also great. But the way it's just been working out that way to where, they're just taking it all the way through. So
That's actually a really great model if you think about it, because once they own that deal, they know them in and out, and like they can really serve that client really well. My business, we don't do that. We have different people at different touch points, and it sometimes things get fumbled, and sometimes things that pass off isn't always the best, right? So it actually might be a better idea to kind of have somebody that's going through the full process with a seller, from
right.
implementation to actually like getting a contract signed to close. Um, it actually might be a really good idea to do that. So I've never thought of that.
Yeah,
I,
it really does.
I'm sorry. I was gonna say I'm just of the school of thought. Like you have your specialist for X, you have a specialist for Y. Like you have your intake, you have your closing, you have all this stuff that are different. But yeah, actually, if you could cross train them, yeah. So, what were you saying?
I just had maybe about a year ago, was the complete opposite. I was like, no, everyone needs to be specialists. Like you have to be a specialist at this. But then also it's like, if you find the right person with the right personality, they're going to want to take it all the way through and they're going to kill it also. Right. And also I know that when I started this business, I did everything start to finish. So if I can do it and teach you how to do it, then why can't you do it? And then also, why can't I allocate? I allocate deals based upon reference number of who takes what. So then it becomes very clear. These people know that, okay, once my reference number comes in, this is for me to handle. That's it. And I just feel like that it's worked a lot better for me because then there's not things the ball's not being dropped anywhere, basically. Because this person maybe didn't get a broker opinion yet, and you're waiting on them to get the broker opinion, and you've got a seller that's like, hey, what's going on? What's going on? And maybe they haven't done it because they're spending time on this. Well, then now you can just do it. Now you can just do everything. But like I said, I used to have a wholehearted belief in everyone needs to be a specialist, but results have shown otherwise.
Yeah, it's a really cool idea. I might try implementing that, at least for the like the mail prep side of things. I mean, I'm gonna have my specialist for that because like that's a whole different game. But maybe on the actual like closing and sales side, that actually might be a really good thing to implement and kind of test. Because we have some good success, but at the same time, I'm the kind of person that just basically likes to give somebody a task and say, hey, go run with it. And like kind of prove your worth, show me that you could do it yourself without my hand holding. Um, and we have good success with it, but I think you're right. I think it is good to train somebody to do it and let them kind of take the whole thing from A to Z. Um, yeah, it's a really cool idea. Okay, cool. So, all right. So you've had ton of success in how long actually let's touch on this. How long did it take you to start seeing that success, right? Was it 6 months, a year? So you really were like, okay, this is actually working.
Yeah, from the time that I started doing it, probably took me around 3 months to do a deal, but it was like a small little poo-poo deal. I was like, okay, I need to go get some coaching and get some mentorship and figure out how to do this correctly. But yeah, I did do a little series of deals that was smaller, and then as soon as I got some coaching and kind of went through a course and did all those things, I did a deal that was, I think it was a buy for 14 and we sold it for like around 60, something like that.
Nice.
And yeah, that was a game changer for me for sure. Cause then I realized what it was. And I think also with these kinds of things in general, it always seems so great. It always seems like, oh man, this is going to be great. I'm going to change my life and all these things. And you think that, continuously think that. But then once you actually cash the check or that wire clears, I mean, it's insane. You realize like I always call it a money glitch because it really does feel like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny. Like you look at these numbers and you're like, oh my God, I made 100 grand.
Yeah.
and you actually didn't make 100 grand. Like you still have to put that back into your business to make 100 grand again, right? So it's like, yeah, you made that money, but like it's not technically yours. You have to keep growing. And if you want to make 100 grand and move on, good, that you could do that in this business. Make a quick 100K, walk away, right? Totally possible. But in actuality, if you want to build a business, that 100K you make, you have to reinvest and then
Yeah.
reinvest. And it takes time to like stack till you start seeing monthly checks of like 10 or 20 grand that going into your pocket. You know, like that rev number always sounds really good. Like, oh yeah, I did this much, but in actuality, you're not taking home much because you have to keep
Yeah.
reinvesting. Um,
Exactly. That's how you
we're
push
still
for
in
growth.
that growth phase too. Like, yeah, got
No, yeah, I was just saying that's how you push for growth. And I mean,
yeah,
it's easy to be like, oh man, I just made 100K on this deal. Let me go do something, right? But no, push for growth, grow your business, buy another mentorship, get more coaching, do those things, cultivate your skills. The more you cultivate your skills, the better you're going to be at the business model. Figure out if you can I go hire better talent? Is there another system that I can learn? All these things, and of course, and reward yourself and take care of yourself. But at the same time, understand that that's, like you said, it's capital to push for growth always.
yeah,
So that's
yeah,
how I think about it. Sure.
exactly. Like we have a couple deals that are closing right now that, if everything lines up, we'll make over 600K. And um my goals, I'm like looking at this, I'm like, it's great, we're gonna make 600K, but like in actuality, I'm like, okay, who am I hiring next? Right.
Mhm.
I'm probably gonna hire a sales manager that's gonna manage like my sales team. I'm probably gonna hire somebody for my main generalist VA. She basically runs our business. I'm gonna hire an assistant for her so I could take away 80% of her work so that she could focus on her 20% and grow. And things like that. So it's like we'll make money, but in actuality, like that money's just going to get reinvested. But the
Yeah.
goal is if we can make 600, well, by building a team, we can make 800, 900, a million the next
Right.
quarter, or like,
Right.
1.2, and then next quarter make 2.4 and just keep growing like that. The leads will come in, we could just reinvest in marketing and all that stuff. But building the systems in the business to really hone in on that, that's the real goal in life and this business. So um awesome.
Yeah.
So
Definitely. But
go ahead, go
no,
ahead.
yeah, no, the idea is definitely just to create a conveyor belt of doing great deals, right? And just having it to the point where your things are just moving on the conveyor belt from intake call all the way to sold, right? That's what you want to build, and making sure that all of the little intricacies and systems are taken care of in between. So just building that conveyor belt is what you want to be able to create with this for sure.
Yep. So I see myself as a bottleneck in my business. I look at myself and I'm like, I am the bottleneck because I want to take so much control. Um,
Yeah.
but I feel like I need to give that up. Do you feel the same way in your business, or is it something like, or are you realizing that yet or not yet?
I think that's a common pitfall with any operator is that at some point, I mean, it's your baby. You built it up from
Yeah.
ground zero, right? And that's how I feel about mine too. Um, there's definitely some things that I'm like, I have to be patient with because if I sub out a task, I'm like, I know I wouldn't have done it that way, but you didn't do it wrong. But let me coach you in a way that is like your employees are not going to be you, right?
Right.
They're going to have their different emotions and feelings and perceptions of things as it contrasts to you, right? Um, as far as like relinquishing control, it definitely is a difficult thing for me too, for sure.
Yeah.
Without a
It's
doubt.
hard.
It is very hard because, like I said, if there's times where I think like, okay, well, if I don't do X, Y, and Z, we're not going to make $200,000 this month, and that's my goal. And so I have to do X, Y, and Z in order for that to happen. Um, I think that this can be a very passive business, but when you're starting out and when you're beginning on your journey, it needs to be very active. Like I don't, depending on the task, there's certain tasks that I know I have to do. Like, I mean, obviously I have to go got to go to the notary or something like that. Like I'm just gonna do that because I don't want anything, I don't want any mix-ups, right? So there's certain things that I'm just gonna do myself, um, for sure. As far as relinquishing control, though, I think it definitely is a bottleneck. But on certain things, I've definitely relinquished control. But the bigger things, like say a bigger deal, maybe a close or something like that, there's certain things that I will just do, because that's what it's gonna take. I'm only gonna do whatever it takes for me to make a few million bucks a year. And so whatever I need to do is what I'm going to do. So if that means I need to relinquish control or have more control over certain things, that's what I'll do. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm at this point. So we were just talking about this in our weekly meeting, our monthly meeting. Um, but one thing, and I read the book 10x is better than 2x and who not how. And one of the things, like the core values, like things they talk about are like what are your like special tasks? What are you good at, right? And I know it's hard to just like relinquish that control, but at the end of the day, like there's a lot of tasks we all do that are not that important that somebody else could totally do for us. But what's your special ability that you could do, right? And for me, like in my business, I've started looking at a lot of this stuff and I'm like, okay, like the main things I feel like I really need to do, like the levers I need to pull, are I really think I need to do a lot of the market selection so I could guide where we're going in our business. And then I really need to, you know, make sure the deals that we're closing on are good, like before we actually close on them, whatever. And I need to raise private capital. I feel like those three things are my main three levers I need to pull. And I feel like everything else in my business I could pass off, right? In my personal opinion, to a point. Now my partner Rob, his main things I look at are like, okay, I need to make sure he's checking our pricing, he's making sure the team is doing their things, and the wheel is running and going and all that stuff. And he makes sure our systems are working, right? So if all those things are done, then those are his three important tasks, right? So I feel like if you could just focus on three important tasks for each, like as your integrator operator, integrator visionary kind of thing, um, you could have great success. So as far as I mean, I'm sure you're like into the EOS systems and stuff like that. Have you ever considered adding like an integrator to your business to see if you could get, like 10x it?
uh, when you say integrator, what do you mean?
So integrator is more of like your COO, your chief operating officer.
Yeah.
You're the visionary. You're the person that's like, hey, I'm going to tell you where the ship is going to go. But the COO is like, all right, I'm at the helm and I'm going to actually guide the ship, right? They're the person that's actually guiding it and implementing everything, all your crazy ideas and all that stuff.
Yeah. So the people that I have working for me right now, it will be one of them, most likely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I basically of the mind of that's why I'm taking you through the whole process so you understand what you're doing. And so you understand that when you get to this point, now I'm gonna basically step back from a lot of operations and you'll be me essentially. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, definitely. And I think that even if it doesn't 10x the business, for me, what it does is let's say, you have a land flipping business that's running at around $2 to $5 million a year, right? And you are now not running it. You're not grinding, you're not doing the daily grind of that, right?
Mhm.
And someone else is. Well, um, let's say you're taking 80% of that profit, that gives you the opportunity to basically parlay that into other opportunities that could 10x, 20x, 30x, 50x your net worth. And those are things yeah, that's what I look to do. So I don't want to get into talking about all those things, but that's it.
I
It
know.
gives you
It's
opportunity. It gives you more opportunity when you're able to free up your time and still make a bunch of money, not operating daily into the land business.
Yeah.
So
It breaks
yeah,
your brain when you start thinking about this stuff because like you're like, okay, let me just build this business so I can build myself out of this business. And then I can move on to building the next business and then build myself out of that business and then stack the two. It's like boom, it creates this crazy ever growing snowball, really.
I think also like when you're dealing with a higher quality product, it's not even like you don't need these super, you always need good systems, but you don't need these super robust systems and all these people in your business if you're doing higher ticket transactions. Like if my average transaction I'm doing is, let's say $75,000, I don't really need to do that many deals to hit a certain number. I don't.
Sure.
And so that way, like the robust systems and all the training, all these things are not really, they may not be necessary. And it's good to just keep it super simple and run um, a light shop, but a robust shop that's doing higher quality deals.
I love it. All right, let's go to some questions. Who wants to ask a question? Go ahead, raise your hand.
I think there's some in the chat.
Yeah, there is one. So, Mills, do you want to ask a question yourself? Or do you want me to read it out?
Sorry, I wasn't expecting you to call me.
Yeah, no
Sure. The question is, if you have somebody that you are training to take the ball from from the 1 yard line, run all the way down, score the touchdown, or whatever, what have you, is there not a fear that that person is ultimately going to want either half the profits or eventually all the profits because they basically know the business inside out? Why would they continue to work for you if they could just open their own business and basically do the exact same thing that they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is, honestly, they don't put up any of the capital, so they're basically not taking any risk and able to receive a lot of the reward. That's one thing. The second thing, it also has to do a lot with a person's personality and their character, right? The people that I hire based upon character and personality, and most of the people that I've hired, they wouldn't even want to do that. Like they just don't think like that, right? They're not thinking, okay, I want to have my own business. They're thinking, I want to be able to grow this thing and make a lot of money and not have the stress of being an owner. Because honestly, I'm sure there is a significant amount of stress in being an owner and an operator as opposed to being a piece in a system or a tool in a system. So that's, yeah, no, I never really worry about that now.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I get that. I understand. Thanks.
Thanks, man. Errol, what do you got, man?
Just two questions. One is a follow-up from what you just said. I just want to make sure I understood. Is it that the type of person you're hiring just ultimately doesn't have the interest in being in your position? Was that the main takeaway? I'm trying to.
Yeah, essentially like just being an owner and doesn't really have the goal in doing that and would rather, like I said, just be a tool in the tool belt, be a tool in the system and still make a lot of money, make a significant amount of money. But again, there are certain personality type, like there's certain people that would never want to own a business.
Yeah.
Right. Like I know me,
Yeah.
I couldn't work under someone's business because I have the goal in the world to be like, not the wherewithal, but just that's my personality. I want to take over the world. That's just how I am. Right. And so not everyone is like that, and that's okay. There's some people that are the exact opposite of that, and would rather have more security and all these things. I've taken a lot of risk in my business to get to where I am today, and some people would not be willing to. Some people just can't stomach that risk. So that's essentially, you never have to deal with anything like that.
Got you.
If you're hiring the right people, that is, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally reasonable. Thanks for clarifying. So I joined a few minutes into the session, so I didn't quite hear when exactly you started your business. And like, I think it was advertised you're doing like 7 figures. Would you be able to share like what was last year's revenue? Thank you.
Last year we did around 1.2 in revenue.
Awesome.
Not revenue. Actually, I think that was net revenue. Actually, I don't know because revenue is like, I don't count that. Revenue is like, I've seen some people count revenue as property sales. So they'll be like, oh, I did $9 million in revenue this year. So I'm like, I don't talk about that. But I started in 2021 and yeah, I started in 2021. I joined LIA, I think in 2022, I believe. I think I joined LIA late 2022. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. I've talked to a few people that this one guy I was talking to, we were talking about like the whole revenue model. And it's like people are like, yeah, I did, X amount of dollars in revenue. It's like, okay, but what are you counting? and they're counting like when they bought it and when they sold it. I'm like, so you're double counting a property and all this stuff. Like you're not considering all this stuff. Like when I look at my business, I just look at net profit after everybody's getting paid. Not like net profit before tax, right? That's what I look at. Like how much am I making after all my team is paid, after my lenders are paid, my realtors are paid, everybody is paid. How much am I making? That's what I look at. And then obviously you're going to get taxed on that. So net would be something different. Net is like after tax, after everything. But yeah, it's funny when people say that, like, yeah, my revenue is 9 million. It's like, but I only made 400,000.
I'll literally see stories and promotions like that where their revenue is some crazy number, and sometimes I fall for it. Wait, you did $1 million last month, or you did $3 million last month, but it's revenue. So
Yeah, it's funny.
Clarify that for sure.
Yeah. What's up, Tom?
Hey, what's going on? Thanks, Dennis and Femi. This is great. I came in a little late, so apologies if these are duplicative, but Femi, you said your average deal size, like profit, like the delta is 75K. Is that like the sweet spot?
It's a little bit lower. It's probably around 20-25, but that's what I'm shooting for right now. Yes.
Okay, cool. And then as far as like what would be the breakdown for you, like private money versus like double closing on the exit strategies? Like how are you, or on the buy strategy, sorry.
Right now, it's a lot of private money. I do think that that's one thing actually I did want to touch on today. Like finding better capital, finding better money is important. Because when you're able to find better money, you're actually able to do less deals and make a lot more money. Like imagine if you're able to buy and sell, buy for 100, sell for 200, and you're giving back maybe 10 to 15% interest back. It's just about finding the people that are going to do that consistently, as opposed to the standard 80-20 or 90-10 model. What else did you ask me? I'm sorry, I didn't catch the question.
Yeah, just like what if you were like heavy on the double close?
Oh yeah. So I do double close. I think you have to be very, very careful when doing that and not use it as a. I was talking about this to Mike a couple weeks ago for a couple hours, and we were talking about how when you're double closing something and you kind of get comfortable in that strategy, you can be at the point where you just kind of get something under contract and then list it, where your numbers might not be as doubted as you need to be. And it's always important to understand that the reason why we're able to sell properties quickly is because usually we're selling them at around 80 to 90% of the market. So if you try to go put a property up at the market value at tip top price, and then maybe you're not in locked in on the acquisition price that you need to be in, you might have a little bit of an issue. And so I always look to, with the double close model, especially making sure that it's just like I'm buying it and reselling it normally. Don't treat it any different. Don't treat it like I'm double closing this. Treat it like I'm just buying it and selling it normally. So what that's going to do is it's going to make us get the price at, let's say we were in at 45 when maybe we really need to be in at 35. It's going to make us do that. And then also it's going to make us listed at a price that's going to sell it quickly, as opposed to trying to go tip top market.
Yeah, okay, so that makes sense. So like you're probably having to renegotiate quite a bit from like the initial mailer, would you say, or is it dialed in?
It depends on the property and the market. It does. It really does. We're not negotiating on everything. Sometimes we've hit straight on the head. I've done multiple deals where a seller sent in a mailer back, signed, and we ended up just closing the deal and never speaking to them. Like that's happened a few times.
Awesome.
The pricing is spot on, but it's not always going to be spot on. I mean, we're sending blind offers, and it's also about the perception of the sellers calling you as well. So I look to make sure that, even though I do make sure that my marketing and my mail and my data selection is really good, it matters a lot more for me to make sure that the quality conversations that we're having with the sellers are leading to doing high quality deals. So
yeah, makes sense. And then maybe one more question. I don't want to take too much time, but are you doing straight flips mostly, or are you doing like value add, subdivide, entitlement stuff?
Street flips. The most I've ever done is clear a property out with an excavator. That's the most I've ever done.
Nice. Man, wonderful. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
Pete, what do you got, man?
Hey, Femi, thanks for the info, man. If you were to go back now, knowing what you know about, you said, hiring people that can take it from A to Z, like, what would you think about now? Like, if you were going back to the beginning, as far as what to look for, who to hire first, how to hire them, how to train them.
Yeah. So as far as who to hire first, I think that the highest ticket skill in this business model is acquisitions. And so I would look to hire that out first. However, that's probably, it's hard to say because I would hire that out first, but at the same time, I feel like it's best to hire the lower ticket things first, right? Because honestly, in my experience of hiring acquisitions people, I think last year I hired and fired almost 10 people. It's hard to hire for that position, and this is like almost 10 people from all across the world, and so that's why I'm saying I would hire that first, just because it's so hard to do. But at the same time, I would rather have someone that, okay, you're gonna open escrow and you're gonna, get the photos for this property and handle the intake and make sure that we have everything that we need for this property and all those things. So that way it makes my job easier of acquisition. So, I mean, I don't think I would do anything different because that's what I did at first. I just got really good at being on the phone, really good at understanding data, really good at understanding mail. And then I had someone kind of handling the smaller tasks, right? Just
Makes
have
sense.
someone handle small, makes your job easier.
Got it. And then anything special you do when you're, posting for that job, or are you doing like personality tests or anything you found that works well?
I do personality tests, but I've done online jobs, ZipRecruiter. I've done my own Discord. So the two employees I have right now, they actually came from my Discord. And so yeah, I've done I like literally everything you can think about. I've also done where you can go on what do you call it? You can go on Indeed or ZipRecruiter or something like that. And then you can put a VPN in. So let's say you want to hire somebody in Costa Rica, you can put a Costa Rican VPN and then hire a Costa Rican employee from Indeed. And you can do that from anywhere. So you want to hire someone in Spain or Egypt or wherever it is. That's how I figured out I just kind of figured that out. I think I was just playing around with it. And I was like, I wonder if this works. And it worked. But you can basically hire anyone from anywhere with that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, thanks.
Sid, what's up, man? How you doing, man?
Been fine. Maybe I like to get brokers on the ground and try to build out that network and then go back to the well as much as possible. Question is, at what point in time do you get these guys to actually go out and look at the property and give you a CMA? Is it before you actually close on it? Before you get the purchase order? What point do you do that?
Yeah, that's a requirement for me. I make sure they go out to it first. And if they don't want to go out to it, then they're not the broker for you. If they ask for money for it, they're not the broker for you. That's what I always say. Like, if you're gonna be like, oh, pay me $500 and I'll go look at it, you're not the one for me. You're just not, and I'll move on. But definitely always, I'll tell you, I've saved myself from so many things. Like, what do we always say? No deal is worse, or I think better than a bad deal, right? Like the whole point of saying that is like, you don't want to do any deal that's going to be a bad deal, because that one bad deal can wipe you out, right? Just as far as reputation or anything like that. I actually had a broker walk out to a property. They're saying, oh, I think this property is going to sell for 600K or whatever it is. And I think we were in at like 100. This property is going to sell for 600K. It's going to sell quickly because of all these comps. She ended up going out to it, and from first of all, the slope map didn't show this, right? But the property was completely flat. It's in a residential area, very nice residential area. All the homes around are selling for millions of dollars. She goes to it and she sends us a picture of it being flat at first. And there's I've never seen anything like this, full runoff, full slope. And on top of that, it was in a floodplain. It was wet, but on the ID lands, it didn't show that. That's all. There was also happened where I had a broker walk out to a property we were going to close on. I think that day she walked out and walked to it, and there was things burned and buried in the property, and then it came up later that there was actually what was it? Environmental Protection Agency had put some kind of notice to these people, and saying like you need to clear this out. So it's like always have someone go out to the property because that's something that could wipe you out if you don't do that for sure.
Agree. Thanks.
Aaron, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going, guys? I had a quick question. First of all, thanks so much for all this amazing knowledge, and I'm honestly glad you guys did it on Zoom this time, just because everybody can join in. Pretty much just the questions that I had. A few properties on the market. One buyer backed out. I'm only 4 months into the business. It's been sending out 5,000 mailers out a month consistently. Like you said, got to be willing to risk it, but have balanced risks. So things have been going really well. I've been very fortunate to have guidance from people like Dennis. But I wanted to hear your perspective, or at least your thought on how often do you see buyers fall out of contracts when they're already on the market, and what sort of follows that. And then number two is, what is the average days on market for your deals?
So the first question, it happens all the time, and it sucks. It's happened. One thing I try to do is I honestly will contact the buyer and try to figure out, okay, why? Because the only thing that the broker or the agent tells you is, oh, they backed out, but I want to know why. And the same way that I can negotiate a seller down is the same way that I feel like I can get a buyer to come back in, which has happened before. And so if there's a deal that I really need to get done and we need to hit our month's numbers or whatever it is, I'll call them myself and I'll do it myself. I've done it before. I had a situation a couple weeks ago where a buyer, he was supposed to wire money on a specific date. He didn't understand. And so he got frustrated and wanted to back out. He only spoke Spanish, right? I speak Spanish. And so I ended up just calling him directly. And I was like, hey, this is exactly what you need to do to get this done. And he ended up getting it done. But the title company didn't communicate to him what was going on because they didn't speak Spanish. It's crazy scenario, but you got to be willing to do that. Like whatever it takes to make your business successful is what you have to be willing to do. And people will back out. It's just important for me to figure out why, especially because if someone backs out of my deal, then I want to make sure that for whatever reason, the next person is not going to back out of my deal. So I want to figure out, okay, what's wrong with this? Because if you backed out, what's to say that they won't back out too?
Yeah. I love that you call them. That's awesome. That's really cool. That's going a step further, because you sort of hand it off to your agent that you trust. So that's cool that you sort of step back in. I like that. I might steal that. It's funny enough, you're saying how the attorney or the title company didn't communicate. I'm learning that they don't communicate even if they speak English. So
No, they don't. You should know that.
No, they don't. They're not great about it. It's like you do have to. You find yourself calling the title company and the escrow attorney a lot just because they've got so many different things going on. And if you have let's say you have my $100,000 profit sitting there, all you have to do is send me some documents so I can sign them. I'm definitely going to call you, right? And just calling them every day. There's times where I have these deals I'm talking about right now. I'm calling these people every single day because I want to make sure, okay, hey, where are these closing documents? Where's this? Where's that? And also sometimes, Dennis and I were talking about this too. I try to be careful with, it's just a nugget, but be careful with sending them a lot of volume. When you start to send a title company or an attorney a lot of volume, they actually do get burned out. You have to realize the not to be, rude about it or anything like that, but some of these people, they don't really think that big. And so if you're sending them 12, 15 deals or something like that, and they see that, damn, like they start adding it up, this guy's going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars on this. It's not great. They start
Almost like
there is some jealousy and you just have to be very careful with that. Very, very careful. Because if they see, especially if you're double closing, they see that, just be very careful with putting all your eggs in one title company or two title companies. Just be very careful. I like to be a little bit spread out with things. And only that's only from experience of like I've had situations where I had multiple deals with the title company and they actually told me they wouldn't do my deals anymore. So
Struggling from success.
yeah, basically, yeah.
That's good. That's cool. Yeah, that's good advice also. I mean, I there's two people I blow up on Discord. It's either, I mean, the attorney isn't on Discord. It's either Dennis or it's the attorney. So, but
Yeah. Aaron calls me a lot. I had to tell him the other day, I'm like, what's up, man? Called me like 15 times in a row one day. I was like, bro, I love you, but let's calm it down a little bit. Nah, that's awesome. Any other
the
questions?
good thing about that is that I actually like the feedback, you know.
Yeah, I know. Any other questions, guys? Awesome.
Yeah, though real quick, the second question I have there, which is how long do they stay on the market for?
No longer than 60 days, but depending on the asset. If they're bigger assets, like if it's buy for 200, sell for double that, I anticipate like 90 to 100 days for sure. It also just depends on pricing, it depends on timing. But yeah, on average, the last time I checked, it was around that 60-day mark. I've had stuff sell in 2 hours. I've had stuff take 6 months. That's the longest it's ever taken for me has been 6 months. The shortest has ever been is 2 hours. But yeah, on average, around that 60-day period.
Gotcha.
And like a lot of these properties, we end up pricing them so aggressively that they actually do get offers quickly, but then sometimes people will back out. So, to your point, to your question, that's what I'll do when they do back out.
Gotcha. Okay. Got it. Yeah, I mean, I had first one and went on the market, had a buyer within 2 days, and they just backed out. We had an issue with the surveyor. He couldn't answer us. Our agent had to go down to literally to his house to go say what's going on. And then once the surveyor met the client and the agent at the property, the buyer just said, it's not for me. And now we're at day 55 of having it on the market. So that's annoying.
Right. I hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would just, I would push the marketing and employ the agent to, follow up with those leads. I always do that. And then if you have to follow up with any leads yourself, do that as well. Like sometimes agents don't want to give you the leads for whatever reason, but I always ask for every single lead. And also when things start sitting for a while, you want to know, okay, in the last however many months this has been sitting, how many calls have we had on this? And then, out of those calls, how many people were interested in actually looking at the property? Out of that interest, how many made a verbal offer? Out of those verbal offers, how many made a written offer? You want to start tracking those things and really track those things from the beginning, from the jump, from day one of listing, track all that stuff, but especially as things start going on, you want to make sure you do that. I don't know if you said this. Did you drop the price already?
On that one, we didn't drop the price because the buyer just backed out. But I don't know if on that one we would. On a different one, which is a similar situation, 15 acres, we dropped the price 2,000, but that was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Now it's like still not much. We had a few people go by, no traction, no serious interest though. So you would lower it again?
Yeah, definitely. And make it aggressive. I always if I'm doing a price drop, I make it aggressive for sure.
Gotcha. I mean, I think it's a buy for 79, give or take. I think it's buy for 79. It's on the market for 127. It was on for 129.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I would.
So,
are you double closing it?
No.
What's the realtor's?
Yes and no. You're double closing it in a way. You have it listed, but you haven't closed on it yet.
Well, we closed on it technically yesterday.
Oh, okay.
We just closed on it.
Yeah, you're right.
Same with the 15 acres, the one with the 2 owners that we mixed them, the aunt and the.
Gotcha. I always get that one in Africa confused.
Yeah. They are confused.
Yeah.
I'd probably drop that to anywhere from 100 to 110. if
Really?
you haven't already. Yeah, be aggressive, because like honestly, even right now, like I have a couple of those closing actually where they end up just offering over the asking price. They have something listed at 125 right now, and they offered 139. And they're going to close at 139. So even if you drop the price, it's still enough to get the interest back in it. And then all those people will get, oh man, there was just a $15,000 price drop. They're going to look at it, right? All the people that saved it at least. So
Right.
yeah, be aggressive in that. Don't like. There's one thing that I've been. Be very careful with counting phantom profits. It's not profitable. It's not a deal until it's in your bank account. It's not.
Yeah.
So be very careful with like, damn, I don't want to mess up my spread. Well, there's no spread because you haven't made any money yet. You know. So for me,
Right.
I always make sure that I'm not counting any phantom profits. It's nothing until that wire hits.
Mm-hmm.
Good advice.
So yeah, definitely.
All right. Very good advice. Thanks. I appreciate it.
All right, guys, we'll go last two questions. Arrow, go ahead first.
I appreciate it. This has been really, really helpful. I just had a question about hiring. It came up that you would probably use personality tests. I was just curious, which test do you use? Do you ever worry about the validity of the results, like if the person did it incorrectly? And if so, do you do anything to facilitate?
Dennis, you actually sent me this personality test. Well, I don't even remember what it was called because I haven't done this in months. What was it? What is the personality test?
Probably, I think I sent you the disc profile test.
Yeah, that's what I use. I use his.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's also people connection, and how it's a lot based upon energy. Like, what is your my father says this a lot. I can't put the word on it. Your goodwill ambassador. That's what it is. What is your goodwill ambassador saying versus who you actually are? And I try to figure out who that person is very quickly. And so just when it comes to hiring, because obviously when you're doing an interview, people are always going to show their best selves, and then they might end up being Jekyll and Hyde. And I've seen it so many times in my business. Oh, I'm so excited about this company. This is the beautiful thing. And then they're Jekyll and Hyde, literally. And so you do have to be very careful with that. It is a lot of trial and error, just like there's no perfect, I don't believe there's any perfect deal. But you're always going to have, you're going to have a completely different hiring journey than I will, or than I have, right? Because you might hire your first person, that person is great, or you might not. But I really do think like tangibly, it's just about the connection that you have with those people. And if they respect and listen to you, if they respect and listen to you, then you're able to coach them, and then they're coachable. Like I look for someone that's moldable. A big thing that I found, like at first, I would always try to find people who already had a bunch of experience. But then when you have people with a bunch of experience, their egos might be a little bit off. When I'm trying to hire them for acquisitions, for example, right? Your ego is too big to learn from me. You're not listening, right? And so you really just need people that are coachable and moldable into what you need them to be for your business to thrive.
Thank you.
Awesome. Go ahead, Pete. What do you got?
Hey, regarding buyers backing out, like what do you do as far as earnest money, and like how much time do you give them? And do you do like in residential housing, they sometimes will do like two, right? Like so a couple percent, within 3, 4, or 5 business days, and then a week or two later, there's a bigger amount. Have you thought about playing with that, you or Dennis?
I thought about that today because I had a buyer back out today. And I was like, so are we not getting this earnest money? And we're not getting the earnest money because the due diligence time was way too long. Like you shouldn't give them they shouldn't have 2 weeks due diligence. It takes 2 hours to do due diligence on a vacant parcel of land. Like let's be honest, you don't need 15 days. And so really shortening the due diligence periods. And then as far as earnest money goes, I really honestly don't care about earnest money, but if they back out, then I do. So I do like, standard, I'll be like 5 days due diligence. That's really what they'll agree to, especially depending on the asset too. Like if it's like a high ticket asset, then it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get a shorter period of due diligence. If it's a mid-size single or double, it should be pretty easy to get that 5 day. As far as earnest money, like I said, I don't really get super into that because most of the time they close, but when they back out, that's the only time it becomes a problem. So for smaller deals, I just try to shorten the due diligence period.
Makes sense. Any
Yeah,
thoughts on that?
I was gonna say, to touch on that too, like I have one deal that we had two buyers come in and they backed out twice. Both for funding issues. So they couldn't get funding on the deal. And it's to their own fault, not my fault. Nothing wrong with the property, per test passed, everything like that. The one guy, I made $2,000 off of DD and earnest money. The second guy made $3,500 off of DD and earnest money. And that's just in my pocket because it's not my fault. The property's fine, it's in great condition. It's because you couldn't get the funding. So,
Yeah.
you know, and they wasted so much time that I couldn't not. Like one property we have alone, it took us literally we're going on to month 7 right now. And one buyer took 4.5 months of that time. And it was just because that buyer just took forever to try to get a USDA loan and totally botched everything. So now we're sitting on this property and it's been on the market for 7 months now, and we look like trash because it's been there. Luckily, we own it. We have a lender on it. It's fine. It's not the end of the world. But at the end of the day, it's annoying, right? So now I'm just dropping the price to my lowest ticket price, and any profits that I could have gleaned off it are gone. You know, I just made what I could make from my earnest, and that's it. And I move on. Done. My lender gets paid, and I'm happy. So
Great. Thank you.
yeah. All right, guys. I gotta wrap this up. I appreciate it. I like this format actually. I don't know about you, Femi, but I actually think this is a good thing. I like having live questions and all that stuff.